The call that changed everything. KeanuReeves was used to early morning calls. Most of them were from agents, directors, or producers. Sometimes fans found ways to reach him too. But this call was different. It came at 5:11 a.m., when the sky outside was still dark and silent. The name on the screen wasn't someone he knew, just the word hospital followed by a local number. Something in his gut twisted. Instinct. It wasn't work. It wasn't fame. It was something deeper. Something human. He pressed the green button, still half asleep, voice hoarse from the night before. "Hello?" he said, his voice calm but alert. The voice on the other end was a woman's, controlled but shaking underneath. "Mr. Reeves? This is St. Joseph's Hospital. We have a patient here who's been asking for you. She's in critical condition." Keanu sat up straight in bed. His heart skipped a beat. "Who is it?" he asked immediately. The pause was long enough to make him nervous. "Her name is Emily Thomas. She said you helped her once. She told us you were the only person she wanted to see before things got worse." Keanu frowned. The name didn't ring a bell, but something in her voice made him grab his coat. "I'm coming," he said without hesitation. "Text me the address." He didn't wait for coffee or breakfast, didn't ask why the woman had named him. It didn't matter. Someone needed him, and if there was even a small chance that he could do something good, just one small thing, he wasn't going to let that chance pass by. As he drove through the empty streets of Los Angeles, Keanu kept trying to remember who Emily Thomas might be. Maybe she was someone he helped years ago. He'd done small things here and there, paid for someone's groceries, walked someone home, gave his jacket to a homeless teen in winter, but he never expected anything back. Certainly not this. He reached the hospital and parked outside the emergency entrance. No paparazzi. No lights. Just silence and the soft buzz of automatic doors. When he entered, a nurse immediately looked up from the front desk. Her eyes widened slightly when she recognized him, but she didn't say anything about it. Instead, she gestured gently toward the hallway. "Room 214. "She's been waiting," the nurse said softly. "But just to prepare you, she doesn't have long." Keanu nodded. He walked quietly down the corridor, past rooms filled with machines and quiet sobs. The world inside hospitals was a world of its own, full of waiting, of hoping, of last moments. He reached the door, hesitated, then gently pushed it open. The room was dim, filled with soft beeping and the slow breathing of machines. In the bed lay a young woman, maybe mid-30s. Pale skin, frail frame, short hair, probably from chemotherapy. Her eyes were closed, but her face turned when the door opened. "Emily?" Keanu asked softly. Her eyes opened slowly, tired, but alive. And then they widened with recognition. "You came," she whispered. A tear slid down her cheek. Keanu moved closer. "Of course. You asked for me." She smiled faintly, her lips trembling. "You don't remember me, do you?" He sat beside her. "No, I'm sorry, but tell me, please." And then she did. 15 years ago on a rainy November night, Keanu had been walking back from a bookstore when he saw a teenage girl sitting alone at a bus stop. She had a black eye and no coat. He'd stopped, asked if she was okay. She told him she'd run away from an abusive home. She had nothing but a backpack and $3 in her pocket. Keanu had listened. Then he walked with her to a diner, got her food, gave her the jacket off his back. He'd even called a friend who worked at a shelter for young women. Arranged for her to be taken in safely. Before she left, she asked for his name. He smiled and said, "Just call me a friend." She never forgot that moment. She built her life from that night, got clean, went back to school, became a social worker, started helping others just like he had helped her. But then came the cancer, 3 years of fighting, and now, this. "I'm not afraid of dying," she said softly, her voice slowing. "I just wanted to say thank you. I never told anyone who helped me that night, but when they said it might be the end, I needed to find you. I needed you to know that you saved my life." Keanu felt something inside him crack, the kind of emotion that had no words. He reached for her hand, held it gently. "You saved your own life," he said. "I just gave you a place to stand." Emily smiled again, and for a moment, the beeping of the machines, the smell of antiseptic, the sadness, they all faded. There was peace. But then the monitors changed. The beeping slowed. The nurse rushed in. The doctor followed. Keanu stepped back, his heart racing. He looked at Emily's eyes as they fluttered, still locked on his. And then, just before everything went quiet, she whispered something he couldn't quite hear. The doctor leaned forward. "She's still breathing, but just barely. We need to act now." Keanu was frozen, staring at her lips. "What did she say?" he asked. The doctor looked at him, unsure. She said, "He has to find her." Keanu blinked. "Find who?" But there was no answer, only silence. And in that moment, standing in the stillness of that hospital room, Keanu realized something. This story wasn't over. It had only just begun. Emily's final words leave Keanu with a mystery. Who is her, and why must she be found? The girl Emily never stopped looking for. The hospital room felt heavier after Emily's voice fell silent. Keanu stood there, heart pounding with the weight of her final words. He has to find her. It didn't make sense at first. He looked at the monitors again, blinking at the cold lines and fading rhythm of life. The nurses and doctors moved gently around Emily, checking vitals, whispering, quietly. It wasn't over yet, but it was close. One nurse turned toward him, her eyes full of sympathy. "She's stable for now," she said, "but it's only a matter of time." Her words hung in the air like winter breath. Keanu nodded slowly, but his mind was racing. Who was her? And why would Emily, after all these years and in her last moments, speak of someone else with such urgency? Keanu stepped out of the room and walked toward the waiting area, his steps slower than usual. The hospital hallway seemed endless, a quiet stretch of flickering lights and tired faces. He sank into a plastic chair, pulling out his phone, staring at the screen without really seeing it. He tried to think back to that night 15 years ago, the rainy night with the runaway girl. She hadn't told him much, only that she had run away from home, bruises on her face, trembling hands, fear behind her voice. She had mentioned a younger sister, just a sentence. I had to leave her behind. That was all. And back then, Keanu hadn't pressed. She was scared and fragile, and it hadn't seemed the right time. But now that single sentence came back like a thunderclap in his memory. That had to be it. The her Emily spoke of. Her sister. The one she left behind. He stood quickly, his decision made. He had to know more. And there was only one place to start, Emily's belongings. Maybe something she brought with her to the hospital could give him a clue. He returned to the front desk and asked the nurse, explaining that she had mentioned someone important before losing consciousness. The nurse hesitated, but then nodded. She led him to a small locker where they kept personal effects for patients, without family. There was a worn-out backpack, faded blue, with a patch that read Hope Springs. He opened it gently, careful not to disturb anything. Inside, there were simple items. A scarf, a paperback book with dog-eared pages, a photo. The photo nearly took his breath away. Two young girls, maybe 8 and 10, sat on a swing set. One of them was clearly Emily, younger, smiling, but with eyes that already seemed to know too much. Beside her was a little girl with bright eyes and a serious expression. Behind them was an old house falling apart in the background. On the back of the photo was scribbled in faint ink, "Me and Elena, 2003, Elena." Her sister Keanu held the photo for a long time, staring at the little girl's face. The name sounded faintly familiar, but he couldn't place it. He checked the rest of the backpack. Tucked inside the book was a folded letter. It had been written recently, just days ago. It wasn't addressed to anyone. It looked more like a diary entry than a letter. It read, "I saw her. After all these years, she's still alive. But she didn't recognize me. I was too afraid to go closer. She looked different, angry, lost. I think they lied to her about me. I don't know what to do. I want to make it right. But how? How do you undo a lifetime of silence? If anything happens to me, someone has to find her. She deserves the truth." Keanu read it again. Then a third time. It was all he needed. He walked out of the hospital, the city now awake with people and cars and life moving as if nothing had changed. But everything had changed. He had a name now. Elena. He had a mission. And he wasn't going to stop until he found her. He didn't go home. He went straight to a private investigator's office he had worked with before. Years ago, after a close friend's daughter went missing, he had used them to quietly find her without alerting the press. He trusted them. The investigator, a woman named Layla Tran, was sharp, relentless, and kind. She didn't blink when he walked in and laid the photo and letter on her desk. "I need to find her," Keanu said. "This is her name. This is the photo. She might not even know her sister's still alive. Or was, until today." Layla studied the photo, then looked at Keanu. "You really don't do things halfway, do you?" "I can't this time," he said. "Emily's dying, this is her last wish, and I won't let it go unanswered." Layla nodded. "Give me 2 hours. I'll dig into this." True to her word, she called back sooner than expected. "I might have something," she said, "but it's complicated." Keanu returned to the office. Layla had pulled up a digital file. It was a case record from a group home in Fresno. A girl named Elena Thomas had been placed there 12 years ago. She would have been around the same age as the girl in the photo. But in 2015, she ran away, vanished. There were no records after that, except one. In 2022, a woman matching her description had been arrested in Los Angeles during a protest. She gave the name Ellie Stone, but it was an alias. No fingerprints on record, no family contacts. The charges were dropped, and she disappeared again. Keanu stared at the screen. Layla zoomed in on a mugshot. The face was older, harder, but unmistakably the same girl from the photo, only now her eyes were different. Colder. Hurt. "What happened to her?" Keanu whispered. Layla sighed. "It looks like she bounced between group homes and foster care after her sister disappeared. There are notes in the system that she believed her sister had abandoned her. It wasn't true, of course, but no one ever told her otherwise. She grew up angry. Alone." Keanu ran a hand through his hair. "So she doesn't know. She thinks Emily left her. More than that," Layla said. "She thinks no one ever came back for her." Keanu felt a deep ache settle in his chest. He looked down at the photo again. The two girls on the swing, before the world broke them apart. "Can you find her? Now?" he asked. "Maybe," Layla said. "If I track that alias, there are hints she might be working under the table downtown. I'll need a day." Keanu stood. "Take what you need. Just find her." He walked out of the building, the photo still in his hand. He looked up at the sky. The same city, the same sun, the same streets. But now, the journey had changed. It wasn't just about a dying wish. It was about giving someone their life back. The truth, the connection they were denied for years. As he drove away, his phone buzzed. It was the hospital. "Mr. Reeves," the nurse said. "Emily woke up again, and she asked if you were searching for her sister." "Tell her yes," Keanu said. "Tell her I won't stop." The nurse paused, her voice shaking slightly. She said, "There's something else you need to know." She's writing it down. "But she's very weak." Keanu's voice dropped. "I'm coming." He turned the car around. Whatever Emily had left to say, he had to hear it before it was too late. Emily regains consciousness just long enough to reveal one final secret. But will Keanu get there in time to hear it? The letter she never sent. Keanu's car sliced through morning traffic as the sun cast long shadows across Los Angeles. But in his mind there was no light, only urgency. He didn't know how much time Emily had left, but every second that passed felt like one too many. He gripped the steering wheel tighter, his thoughts spinning between the photo of the sisters, the letter tucked in her backpack, and the faint, haunting line she had whispered. He has to find her. Now she was awake again, and something about her tone passed on through the nurse had shaken him. Whatever she had left to say, it mattered, maybe more than anything else. He parked with little thought, hurried inside the hospital, and practically ran down the corridor to room 214. The hallway looked the same, but it felt different, colder, more final. When he opened the door, he saw Emily awake, her face pale and drawn, but her eyes, though tired, still carried a sharpness that cut through everything else. A nurse stood nearby, dabbing her forehead gently. When she saw Keanu, she stepped aside silently. Emily's voice was a whisper, barely more than a breath, but it still held strength. "You're here," she said, a weak smile curling at the corner of her lips. Keanu pulled the chair close, sitting beside her again. "I told you I wouldn't leave. I found your letter. I know about Elena." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes. "You remember? I told you about her, didn't I? That night. I said I left her behind." Keanu nodded. "I didn't understand what that meant back then. I was just trying to help you survive. But now I know, and I want to help her too." Emily swallowed hard. "I need you to listen. Really listen. Because there's something I never told anyone. Not even in the letter." Keanu leaned in closer, and Emily motioned weakly toward the drawer beside her bed. He opened it and pulled out a crumpled envelope, sealed but old, with fading ink on the front. It simply said, "For her, when it's time." "I wrote it years ago," she whispered. "I carried it with me everywhere, in case someone found her before I could." Keanu held the envelope gently, like it was glass. "Can I read it?" Emily gave the smallest nod, her eyes misty. "Read it to yourself, not out loud." Keanu slid his thumb beneath the flap and pulled out a folded piece of lined paper. He opened it slowly, his eyes moving over the words, and the deeper he read, the more the weight of it settled into his bones. "Dear Elena, if you're reading this, then someone found you. Someone good. Someone who wants you to know the truth. I'm sorry I didn't come back for you. I wanted to. I tried. But they told me you were gone. They lied to me, Elena. They said you'd been taken away by the state, then lost in the system. I looked for you. For years. I begged them. But I was just a broken teenager and no one believed me. They told me to move on. So I tried. But I never stopped hoping. I want you to know that I never abandoned you. I ran to protect us both. Dad was getting worse. You remember that night. You saw what he did. I couldn't take you because I thought he'd kill us both if he found out I was leaving. But I left a note for the neighbor. She promised to check on you. I thought you'd be safe. I thought I'd come back once I had help. But by then, everything had changed. You were gone. I never forgave myself, Elena. I still don't. But I want you to know you were the only good thing in that house. You were the only reason I survived. And if this letter finds you, please don't carry my silence as hate. It was never that. It was only fear and failure, but I always loved you. Love, Emily." Keanu finished reading the letter with his heart in pieces. He looked up at Emily, whose eyes were closed now, as if she had nothing more left to say. But then her lips parted again, trembling. "She might not believe it," she whispered. "She might hate me, but if she hears it from you, maybe, just maybe." Keanu reached for her hand again. "I'll tell her, Emily. Every word, and she'll know." Her lips curled slightly again, almost like a thank you. Then her eyes fluttered open. One final time. There's one more thing. Her voice was so soft he could barely catch it. She has a tattoo. Behind her left ear, a star. I told her back when we were kids that if we ever got lost, that would be how we'd find each other again. I made her promise to get one. I have the same. With great effort, she shifted her sleeve slightly, revealing a faded star tattoo on her shoulder just beneath the collarbone. She has it too. It's the only way you'll know. It's really her. Keanu stared at the tattoo, that fragile star, and nodded with new resolve. Then Emily exhaled slowly and didn't breathe again. The room fell into silence, not the kind filled with peace but with a lingering ache, the kind that echoes forever. Keanu stood, stepped back and let the nurse gently cover her face. Another nurse entered quietly, lighting a candle at the corner of the room. Keanu stood there, holding the letter, the photo, and the truth that had taken 15 years to reach daylight. He left the hospital without speaking to anyone. He didn't need to. He had her story now, and he had a promise to keep. Layla called that evening with a lead. "Keanu," she said, "I think we found her. Elena. She's going by the name Elle Stone, just like before. She works nights at a music venue downtown, handling lights and sound. Goes by Ellie. Quiet. Keeps to herself. No official address. Just a P.O. box." Keanu's heart jumped. "Do you have a photo?" Layla sent it instantly. Keanu opened the image. It was grainy, a security cam shot. But there she was. Same. Cheekbones, same eyes. Older. Worn. Distant. But the resemblance was there. He zoomed in, and just behind her left ear, barely visible in the poor lighting, was a small, inked star. She was real. She was alive. And she had no idea that her sister had died, with her name on her lips. Keanu closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the next step. How do you tell someone that the person they believed had abandoned them had spent her whole life trying to find them? How do you bring truth to a heart that's spent years armored by pain? You do it with honesty, with kindness, with courage. And Keanu Reeves was ready. He folded the letter, tucked it safely into his jacket pocket, and headed into the night. Keanu prepares to face Elena, who has no idea he's coming, and no idea what he's about to reveal. But what if she refuses to listen? Or worse, what if she already knows and chose silence for a reason? The girl behind the star night fell over Los Angeles like a soft curtain drawn over a restless stage. The city hummed with music, headlights, and footsteps going nowhere in particular. Keanu Reeves stood on the sidewalk across from an old music venue tucked between two alleyways, barely noticeable unless you knew where to look. Its neon sign flickered weakly, casting a dull pink glow on the sidewalk. This was the place Layla had found. It didn't look like much, but to Keanu, it was the beginning of something that had taken 15 years to reach. He stepped inside, immediately swallowed by the smell of dust, cables, and old wood. The venue was dimly lit, and a local indie band was doing a sound check on stage, their guitars rumbling through the floorboards. In the back, near the mixing booth, he spotted a woman with short jet black hair wearing a hoodie and black jeans, bent over a panel of switches and sliders. She moved with quiet precision, not distracted by the music or the people milling about. She was there to do a job. Nothing more. Keanu moved toward her slowly, unsure of what he would say, of how to say it. This wasn't a movie. There was no script. Only a man carrying a dead woman's words in a story that might either heal a soul or shatter it all over again. When he reached her, she turned slightly, sensing someone behind her. Her face was tired, framed by lines that didn't belong on someone so young. But it was her. No doubt. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice guarded but polite. Keanu took a breath. "Are you Elle Stone?" Her eyes narrowed. "Who's asking?" "My name is Keanu Reeves." She blinked, then gave a faint sarcastic chuckle. "Yeah, sure, and I'm Beyoncé." But when she looked at him again, really looked. Something shifted. Recognition flickered behind her eyes, not from movies but from something deeper, like a shadow cast by a forgotten memory. "You're serious," she said slowly. "You're really him." He nodded. "What are you doing here?" Her voice was more cautious now, uncertain. Keanu pulled out the photo from his jacket. The one of two little girls on a swing set. He held it out. "Do you recognize this?" Her hand didn't move at first, but her eyes locked onto the image like a magnet. She stared at it, lips parting. Her fingers twitched. Then she reached for it, trembling, like touching the past might burn. "Where did you get this?" she asked, voice shaking. "From your sister," Keanu said gently. Ella stiffened. Her eyes went hard in an instant. "I don't have a sister." "You do," he said. "Her name is Emily Thomas. She passed away yesterday morning." The words hit her like a punch. She stumbled back a step, gripping the edge of the soundboard. "No," she whispered. "No, she's dead. She left me. I waited for years. She never came back." Keanu took a careful step forward. "She didn't leave you. She thought you were gone. The system lied to her. She spent her whole life looking for you. And when she couldn't find you, she wrote this." He took the folded letter from his jacket. It was worn from his hands, but still intact. He offered it. Elle looked at it like it was a ghost. Her body tensed, jaw clenched. "Why are you doing this?" "Because she asked me to," Keanu said. With her last breath, she wanted you to know the truth. Elle didn't take the letter. Not yet. Instead, she stared at him, her voice full of bitterness. "You don't get it. I was 5 years old the night she left. He came for me, our father. He beat me so badly I ended up in the hospital. The neighbor was supposed to check on us, but she didn't. CPS took me away, put me in a home, told me my sister ran away and didn't want me anymore. I waited. Every birthday, every Christmas, every broken day in between, and she never came." Her eyes were glassy, her voice full of rage and grief. "I stopped believing in people a long time ago." Keanu didn't speak right away. Instead, he unfolded his sleeve and showed her the same letter, slowly holding it open so she could read the first few lines. Her eyes dropped to the page against her will, and the words pulled at her. "If you're reading this, then someone found you. I never abandoned you." The weight of it cracked something in her. Her knees buckled slightly, and she sat down on a stool, staring into space. She took the letter finally. Hands shaking, she didn't open it, not yet, she just held it, like it was the last part of someone she used to know. "She was real?" she whispered. "Yes," Keanu said. "And she never stopped trying to find you." Silence stretched between them, filled only by the distant thrum of music on the stage. Then Ellie lifted her hand slowly, brushing her hair back and turning her head to show him the tattoo behind her ear. The star. Faded, but still there. "She told me," Elle said. "If we ever got separated, to get the star, and when we found each other again, we'd know." "She had one too," Keanu said. "On her shoulder. She showed me before she passed." Elle's eyes welled again, but this time she didn't fight the tears. They spilled freely, falling silently down her cheeks. "I hated her for so long," she said. "But all this time, it wasn't her. It was everyone else?" "Yes," Keanu said. "And now you know." Elle opened the letter and read. Slowly, painfully. Every line felt like a wound being stitched shut. When she reached the end, she pressed it to her chest and wept. Not the way people cry in front of others, but the way you cry when you're alone in the dark. When the pain is old and deep and finally has somewhere to go. Keanu sat beside her, not speaking, not offering anything else. Just being there. Because sometimes, that's enough, after what felt like forever. She looked up. "What happens now?" she asked, voice raw. "Whatever you want," Keanu said. "I can take you to where she's buried. We can go tomorrow, or next week, or never, but I'll be there either way." Elle nodded faintly. I want to go, not because I need to say goodbye, but because she deserves to hear me say thank you. Keanu stood. Then we'll go. As they walked out of the venue together, the night air felt different, like the city itself had taken a breath. Ella tucked the letter into her pocket, her face still wet but calmer now. But just as they reached his car, Ella stopped. "There's something I didn't tell you," she said, her voice suddenly uncertain. "Someone else knew about the star, someone from my past, someone who tried to use it against me once. They said they had seen my sister too." Keanu turned toward her slowly. "Who?" Elle looked down the dark street, her expression changing. "Man named Caleb, and if he knew, then he might have gotten to her before you did." The revelation of a shadow from Elena's past, someone who claimed to know about the star and Emily, threatens to twist the story into something far darker. Was Emily's death truly peaceful? Or is there more behind her final days than anyone knew? Secrets that refused to stay buried, the next morning arrived with a cold gray sky stretched thin over Los Angeles, as if the city itself was holding its breath. Keanu Reeves stood in the cemetery, a simple bouquet in his hand. Beside him stood Elena, no longer Elle, no longer just a name on a file or a face in a photo. Now she was a sister, a survivor, and a daughter to a story that had never been allowed to end properly. They stood in front of a fresh grave. The headstone was simple, elegant and quiet, like Emily herself had been in her final hours. No marble angels or weeping statues, just a name, 2 dates, and a line carved gently beneath. She found peace by giving love a voice. Elena had barely spoken all morning. Since the night before, she had held Emily's letter close to her chest as if fearing it would disappear if she looked away for too long. But now, as she knelt beside the grave and ran her hand across the soft earth, something in her shifted. Her shoulders trembled, her breath caught in her chest, and at last her voice found its way through the storm inside her. "I waited for this moment for so long," she said, barely above a whisper, "but I thought it would be different. I thought it would be filled with anger, blame, questions, but now all I feel is silence, like the war inside me is finally over." Keanu crouched beside her, setting the flowers down gently. "She carried your name until her last breath," he said, "and she never once stopped believing that one day she'd be able to tell you the truth." Elena nodded slowly. "I believe her now. But it's not just her truth that matters. There's something else, Keanu. Something that's been chasing me for years." He turned to her fully, hearing the change in her tone. "Caleb," she said quietly. "The man I mentioned. He wasn't just someone from my past. He was part of something bigger, darker. After I got out of foster care, I ended up on the street. Caleb was one of the first people who found me. He said he could help, said he knew people, but he wasn't helping. He was watching, tracking, collecting stories from kids like me, broken kids. He called it his project, said he could make something out of the pain, something profitable." Keanu frowned. "What do you mean, profitable?" Elena's eyes were hollow now. "He sold stories. People's tragedies. Kids like me, like Emily. He'd make them relive their past, write it down, make them talk about it like it was performance. He'd sell the pain to people who wanted to feel close to suffering, but not enough to stop it. He called it empathy commerce, like our trauma was something to be packaged, sold, repeated." Keanu's blood ran cold. "Are you saying he found Emily?" Elena nodded. "I didn't know until last year. Someone told me they saw Caleb meeting with a woman who looked like me. Same voice, same eyes. He showed her a photo. Our photo. The one of us on the swing. Said he was a friend of mine, said I sent him." "And she believed him?" Keanu asked. "I don't know," Elena whispered. "But something changed. I tried to follow his trail, but he was careful. He moves fast, leaves no records. When Layla found me and you showed up, I thought maybe I was wrong. Maybe he never got to her." Keanu looked toward the grave, heart pounding. But what if he did? Elena stood now, anger and grief mixing in her voice. "We have to find out." If he fed her lies, if he used her for his sick games and then she didn't die in peace. And I need to know the truth. Keanu nodded, his jaw tight. We'll find him. They left the cemetery in silence, but the silence had changed. It wasn't heavy with sorrow, it was burning with purpose. Back at Layla's office, Keanu laid it out for her. Everything. Who Caleb was, what he did, and how it might be connected to Emily's final days. Layla, always composed and professional, looked genuinely shaken for the first time in years. I've heard whispers of people like this, she said, but it's hard to prove. They hide behind nonprofit work, counseling gigs, therapy podcasts. They take the pain of others and monetize it, pretending it's about healing. Elena leaned forward. I need his real name, I need his face. I only ever knew him as Caleb. Layla typed furiously, digging through old reports, nonprofit filings, public events. There's a Caleb Reynard who used to run a trauma podcast called Beneath the Surface. It was canceled 2 years ago after allegations surfaced. Anonymous. No charges, no evidence. He disappeared right after. Resurfaced under different names. Always working with runaways, always staying just outside the law. Keanu stared at the screen. Can we find where he is now? Layla's fingers flew across the keys. Give me 5 minutes. They waited, barely breathing. Then, she paused. He's speaking tonight, under a new alias, hosting a healing circle in a private gallery downtown. Registration-only event, but it's open mic, no cameras allowed. It's the perfect front. Elena's hands balled into fists. We're going. Keanu nodded. You won't face him alone. That night, under the cover of darkness, they approached the gallery. It was tucked between 2 upscale buildings, its entrance disguised behind modern glass and soft music. A woman at the door checked their fake passes. Layla had secured them in time. The inside looked like a spa crossed with a confession booth. People sat in beanbags and on the floor, sipping herbal tea, speaking in low murmurs. In the center, under a soft spotlight, stood a tall man with calm eyes and a practiced smile. Caleb Reynard. Keanu recognized him immediately, not from memory, but from the way Elena's entire body locked into place when she saw him. She froze mid-step, the air sucked from her lungs. You sure? Keanu whispered. Positive. They sat quietly, waiting. Caleb was speaking gently to a small circle, sharing vague words about light through suffering and letting pain become your art. Everything was smooth, fake, carefully rehearsed. But then Keanu stood, and the room went silent. I have a story to share, he said. Caleb paused. Of course. Everyone is welcome here. Keanu stepped into the light. This is the story of a girl named Emily Thomas, a girl who carried pain her whole life, who believed in love anyway, who spent 15 years trying to find the sister she was told had vanished, a girl who died thinking the world had finally shown her peace. But maybe it didn't. Caleb's eyes narrowed, his face betraying the first flicker of fear. Keanu continued. She died 2 days ago, in a hospital, asking for the truth. And now, we're here, to find out what role you played in that story. Caleb's voice turned cold. Sir, this isn't a courtroom. No, Elena said, rising beside Keanu. It's a graveyard, and you've been dancing on it for years. People in the circle turned, confused. Some stood whispering. A few pulled out phones despite the signs banning them. Tension cracked through the room. Elena took a step forward. You used me. Used my pain. And then you found my sister. Showed her lies. Did you tell her I abandoned her again? Did you make her story into your profit? Caleb didn't respond. He turned to leave. Keanu stepped in his path. Not this time. Security moved toward them, but a woman in the crowd, someone who had been silent all night, stood up. I know that name. Caleb Reynard. He did the same to me. Another voice. Me too, he recorded my sessions without consent. More people stood. The healing circle broke apart. Caleb backed into a wall, trapped by his own echoes. And then, the sound of police sirens outside. Layla had called them. She had timed it perfectly. Everything he had run from was now crashing into him. He was arrested that night, not just for past allegations, but for falsified documents, unauthorized counseling, and potential financial crimes linked to victim exploitation. Keanu and Elena walked outside, the night air cool and still. "Do you think she knew?" Elena asked. "That he was lying?" Keanu looked up at the stars. "I think she knew the truth, and I think she held on to it until the very end." Elena closed her eyes, breathed deeply. "Then maybe, now we can finally do the same." As Caleb is taken away, one of his former assistants finds Keanu and Elena outside with a chilling revelation. There's more. He wasn't working alone, and someone else already knew about Emily's search. The legacy she left behind the night had barely quieted when the assistant approached them outside the gallery. She was young, maybe 23, dressed in a gray hoodie and torn jeans, her hands trembling as she held out a worn notebook with a cracked leather cover. Her eyes flicked between Keanu and Elena, hesitant like someone preparing to step out onto a frozen lake. She took a breath and spoke quickly before fear could drag her back. "My name is Mel," she said. "I worked with Caleb, not because I wanted to, but because I had nowhere else to go. I was a survivor too. He found me when I was 17, promised healing, and pulled me into his program. But after a while I realized he wasn't helping people. He was breaking them again and calling it growth. I wanted out, but he kept me quiet." Elena narrowed her eyes. "So why now?" Mel looked down at the notebook in her hands. "Because of her. Emily Thomas. I met her. He brought her to one of our retreats up north about 6 months ago, told her he could help reconnect her with her sister. I didn't know the full story then, but I knew she was scared and kind, and she trusted him until the last night. I overheard a conversation between them. She had found out he lied. She wanted to leave, and she threatened to go public with everything." Keanu took a slow step forward. And then, Mel's face fell. 2 days later she was gone. He told us she left on her own, but I didn't believe him. And now, hearing everything from you, I know he was trying to silence her. She held out the notebook again, this time more urgently. "She gave me this the night before she disappeared, told me to keep it safe, that if something happened to her, someone had to finish what she started." Elena took the notebook slowly, her hands shaking as she turned the cover. Inside were page after page of Emily's handwriting, not just memories but evidence, names, locations, copies of emails, accounts of abuse, of manipulation, of survivors who were turned into products. It was more than a journal. It was a map of everything she had endured and everything she had uncovered. Elena flipped through it in stunned silence, tears welling again. She didn't just fight to find me. She was fighting to protect everyone else too. Keanu looked over her shoulder, reading the lines that exposed the quiet system Caleb had built behind closed doors. And suddenly, everything felt clear. Emily hadn't been running. She hadn't been hiding. She had been building a case, and she knew the risk. She knew that speaking out might cost her everything. And she did it anyway. Keanu looked at Mel. "Thank you for trusting us." Mel nodded, tears in her eyes. "She changed me. Even in the short time I knew her, she reminded me that we don't have to let pain define us, and that silence isn't always safety." Over the next 3 weeks, everything changed. Layla worked with a legal team to compile Emily's notes into a formal case. A handful of other survivors came forward after Caleb's arrest, emboldened by what they saw that night in the gallery. News outlets began picking up the story. Not just the scandal, but the woman behind it. The quiet social worker who had survived a childhood of abuse, lost her sister, fought cancer, and still found the strength to protect others. Emily's name became a symbol not of tragedy, but of truth, resilience, and courage. Keanu stayed close during it all. Not for publicity, not for headlines, but because he felt it in his bones. This wasn't just a story he stumbled into. was a calling, a reminder of why he had helped Emily all those years ago. A small act of kindness had turned into something no one could have predicted. And now, that ripple had become a wave. One morning, as the headlines continued to spread, Elena asked him to meet her at a quiet spot near the coast, an old overlook with a view of the ocean stretching far and wide. When Keanu arrived, she was sitting on a bench holding a small box in her lap. "It's strange," she said as he sat beside her. "For years I hated her, blamed her, and now I miss her like a part of me's been ripped away." "That's not strange," Keanu said gently. "That's what grief feels like when it's mixed with love." She opened the box. Inside was a necklace, simple, silver, with a small star charm on the chain. "She wore this all the time," Elena said. "I found it with her things after the funeral, and I want you to have it." Keanu hesitated. "Elena?" "No," she said, firm but soft. "This wouldn't have happened without you. If you hadn't picked up that phone, if you hadn't come, I would have never known the truth. She would have died alone, and he would have kept getting away with it." He took the necklace slowly, quietly, like a sacred relic. "Thank you." They sat in silence, the sea wind brushing against their faces. Elena pulled something else from her jacket, a folder, thick with pages of handwritten plans. "This is what comes next," she said. "I'm starting something in her name, a foundation, to help girls like us, to give them a voice before someone tries to sell it. I'm calling it Emily's Star." Keanu smiled softly. "She would have loved that." "She deserves that," Elena said. "And I'm not going to stop until it's real." They looked out over the ocean, two souls shaped by pain but refusing to be defined by it. The waves below crashed and rolled, constant, eternal. And somewhere in the distance, the sun finally broke through the gray clouds, casting light on the water below. Months later, at the official launch of Emily's Star, dozens of survivors stood in a circle, holding candles as her story was read aloud. Photos of her life, before and after the pain, lined the walls. And in the center stood Keanu and Elena, side by side. Keanu stepped forward to speak, holding the very letter Emily had once written. "This is the legacy of a girl who chose to love, even when the world gave her every reason not to, who fought to bring others back into the light, and who reminded us that the smallest act of kindness can save someone's entire life." He looked at the crowd, every face carrying the weight of their own story. "This isn't just her story anymore," he said. "It's ours now, and we have a choice. Stay silent, or speak, even when it shakes the earth beneath us." The candles flickered. Some hands trembled, but no one looked away, because this time they were ready to speak. Not for revenge, not for attention, but for Emily, and for every voice that had ever been silenced. In the crowd, a young runaway girl stood listening, holding her own letter, unopened, given to her by Mel. She looked at the stage with wide eyes, not knowing what would come next, but finally believing that someone, somewhere, might actually listen.